now live for the Buddies of Budgie Desktop Community and Development Roadmap Discussion. Very long name. Can I make it longer? Session. So basically the gist of this is mostly just going to be us sitting down, taking a look at the project. So right now we have a Budgie 11 like global roadmap on the GitHub org. You guys should have the capability of adding items and all that to it. I don't think there's any like special permission set up, but I could double check here. Let's see, manage access. Yes, so you guys have admin capabilities on there. But also I would like to, I guess, start out probably with Budgie 10 items. So that's what we'll go ahead and do, because I think it'd be a nice way of sort of determining what needs to happen exactly, add those as items, maybe cross-reference them to the GitHub issues and all that. So hopefully some of that made sense, but it'll make more sense as we go on. But before all that, let's go ahead and have some quick introductions. So my name is Josh. I am BDFL of Buddies of Budgie. I don't really do all that much coding at this point, although I should probably get off my butt and actually do some. Most of that's been Evan Yeager and Cerebit, and those two are best buds, but I'll let them introduce themselves. So let's start in the top left-hand corner for me, which is going to be Cerebit.
Hi, I'm Cerebit or Campbell. I am one of the best buds. I've been working on a little bit of status notifier, so getting a new system tray in. Put that on hold for a new network applet, which I'm now putting on hold for adding widget support to Raven. Long trail of things behind me, but I'll get to them all eventually.
Evan, do you want to go?
Sure. I'm Evan or Eban, either way works, and I'm the soulless maintainer of Budgie and contributor to Budgie. That's obvious. I've worked on the menu recently, all the notification stuff, and soon maybe Bluetooth.
Ooh, that would be very exciting to see. Yeah, so I'll go ahead to, for those that are watching, just fire up my menu here, and you can see what he's talking about. How, you know, we have the integrated power options now, so you don't need the user indicator. You have quick access to the Budgie control center and Budgie desktop settings, and also XDG stuff. The search is like way better and more consistent, and it doesn't crap itself when I install something, which is super great. So yeah, really excellent work on that. And of course we have all the original OG, well actually it's the revamp of the OG system tray that rarely craps itself, although like some icons through no fault of Cerebit don't render, like Vivaldi. If they could fix their stuff, that would be nice. But system tray stuff is always a little jank, but yeah. Okay, so I guess we could dive right in. I did link those Miro boards in Google Meet. And I guess what we could do is use those as a reference point. So we have this sort of thing, what needs to happen to shift development to 11. We have a lot of items here. So the Budgie run dialog, which I'm yet to review, I know I need to, was just done by Evan Yeager. So that uses, does that use like the new app indexer fanciness?
The run dialog, yes.
Yep. Very nice. So that we have this sort of EFL and Qt theme handling. So this is like being able to select them within Budgie desktop settings. Not really sure how important the EFL side of that is, but it'd be nice to have the Qt theme handling selection in there. Network applet stuff. general keyboard accessibility improvements. We already have this application tracking library. Sort of. Well, no, I mean technically we have app indexer. We have abomination, but abomination uses libwntk. So moving that away from that would be quite nice. It's something that's generalized instead of being reliant on X11. And then of course we have all the bluesy stuff. So this is what you would have as a user story or an epic about just generally improving Bluetooth support, whether that's communicating the power status of Bluetooth devices that are currently connected, or quick reconnection, or settings to dive into certain things, and then potentially using BlueZ directly. But a lot of that's going to be up to the decisions of Evan Yeager if he decides to go down that route. So this is what we'll sort of use as a reference point, and we could like expand on these or also keep it intentionally high level. It's really up to YouTube as well, what we want to do. But the whole point is to sort of flesh out these like global project workboards. And the nice thing on the GitHub side, and I'll go ahead and link this in the meet as well, is the nice thing about these boards is they're not specific to one repository. And that's going to be really nice in the case of Budgie 11 as an example, when things are sort of expanded out. So we have, a Budgie WM, we have Budgie settings, and that'll be Budgie desktop settings and Budgie control center all as one. And we'll have like our Budgie daemon, and then of course all the other UI components is these sort of separate repositories instead of a monolithic one. So breaking these out, like for example, I had listed some daemon items, so implementing protobuf and gRPC bits and importing code and general library stuff. These are intentionally quite high level as well. And these are of course subject to change, but the whole point is to at least have something, especially for like Budgie 10, so people could kind of track what are the big items that still need to be done for Budgie 10 before we really shift our focus primarily over to 10. So what I'm gonna to 11. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create one for 10, and instead of having Josh Trouble's untitled project, we'll have one called Budgie 10. And let me go ahead and do the settings and this little behind the scenes of how this all works. So I'm gonna do best buds, which needs to be here. And then we'll go ahead and do admin, and then should just be invite, and it should be automatic. So if you guys would like to confirm, do you see a Budgie 10 project now? Like if you go under this projects, there'll be like recently viewed by default. If you haven't viewed anything, then it'll just be listed under like the projects on the left hand side here.
It says it's private, but it is there.
Okay, let's go ahead and let me go ahead and change the visibility of this. It doesn't need to be private. That literally is like anti what we're trying to achieve here. So the great thing is like what we can do is we have like all these draft issues, but we could also search for something. So if I start with the hash, I could do Budgie desktop, and then it'll say, okay, I'm selecting Budgie desktop, and then we could actually find an issue or a pull request and like reference that here. So this is really great for sort of consolidating a bunch of issues into a single area. And then we could add columns and status and assignees and that sort of thing if we wanted. But really the goal here is just to have a nice board, which is going to produce a nice GraphQL response from the GitHub API for me, so I could build out some form of a roadmap for at least 10 for the website. So I guess to get started, we should probably check, do we have any issues? And we don't have to create issues, say in Budgie desktop. And Cerebit, there might actually be a good opportunity to maybe add an issue for Budgie backgrounds as well, if we want to sort of try to incorporate that into Budgie desktop, like make it like a requirement or if we want to keep it separate. That could be a discussion item, but we should probably maybe go through like these issues and sort of look at the enhancements and see, okay, what is an accepted enhancement that maybe should be referenced for this roadmap project for Budgie 10, and then we could sort of change up, where things are located. Like for example, this improving the legacy task list, I don't realistically think it's going to be in 10.7. So I would propose moving it to 10.8 if you two are okay with that.
I think 10.8.
Okay.
It's because it's definitely not happening in 10.7 because I have to do Raven first, and then I have to do the new network applet, which is going to take some time.
Yeah, and I have internal theming, which is going to be an ongoing saga, of course, beyond 10.7, but I actually have to get around to that. So, but it's gonna happen in 10.7, damn it. I know there's been some disagreement about that, about whether or not we should tag it 10.7 already, given all the theming stuff, but I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, do we want to go through these and maybe see if we need to create new issues in Budgie Desktop for these things, like, say, well, do we have one for Bluetooth? Well, we only have one for compatibility with GNOME Bluetooth 3, but
and that's sort of become a broader issue with potentially using other stuff, I think.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on?
Actually, no, we never really discussed that in the issue. I guess we only discussed it in the call that we did for the mirror board.
Oh, that's right.
So yeah, I guess that's the question, is like for Budgie 10, and I guess it's a question to both of you because I don't really have a strong preference on this. Do we want to try to strive to use Bluesy directly, or do we want to use GNOME Bluetooth 3 instead of GNOME Bluetooth, which is like the latest version of the library's GNOME Bluetooth 3?
I would be more in favor of using Blues. I always thought it was Blues. Maybe it's Bluesy. Either way, directly.
Yeah.
Because that gives us full control instead of having to rely on GNOME again.
Yeah. I'm pretty much in the same boat.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on us closing this issue then, in light of the fact that we're going to be using Bluesy? Because otherwise there's no reason to have compatibility with GNOME Bluetooth 3 when the work that's going to be done revamping it isn't going to be using GNOME Bluetooth 3 anyways. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
I think we should close it, in favor of another issue.
All right, so I'm gonna do that. In that case, does somebody want to take up the task of maybe filing an issue about revamping the Bluetooth applet?
I can probably do that since I've been looking into it. Unless
I'll let you handle it.
Okay. And Cerebit, is there anything you want to like maybe look at here and either cross-reference onto like this view 1 tab, which we could always just change the names of those, or generalized cleanup, or maybe adding certain milestones to some of these, like the network applet and system tray and that sort of thing?
Probably Raven.
Okay.
Since that'll be done relatively soon.
Yeah, there is a issue number 23, which is facilitating a better pluggable Raven. I'm not sure if you could edit my. You should be able to edit this. If you could edit my comment, I'm also on board with you like modifying that to have more information, and just like maybe comment that you've updated the info for it, and and whatever milestone you think makes the most sense, go ahead and do that. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and close this compatibility with GNOME Bluetooth one and write that. So somebody in my chat says, how frequently do you stream? Like practically never. Unfortunately. I say this every time, oh yeah, I should stream more. But easier said than done. So yeah. It might be a little bit easier now that I am like fully remote. But and I have my travel time to get to work is like 30 seconds. So assuming I'm not already at my PC. All right, so I'm going to be closing this. Lucy. Might be a little hard to see there. I have to put stuff at like 200% in order for it to be viewable on the stream. Was it so small?
The complete refusal to use DPI scaling.
Yeah.
Just fair. It does kind of suck on X11.
Yes, it does. But also, like, I don't even know if I would do... I don't know if I would do fractional scaling anyways, even if it didn't suck under X11, because I like just having the sheer raw pixels.
Yeah, fair.
So, all right, so I'm gonna take a look. So redesigning internal theme. I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. Can I add milestones? Yes. Okay, I'll add that as a column, and I'll go ahead and introduce revamp. Let's see, internal theme. Redesigning internal theme. So this is yep, to do. Yeah, and for like the roadmap, so my thought for it is just having like what's currently being worked on, what is next, so like immediately upcoming, so 10.7 to 10.8, and then like future. So future is sort of a broad thing. It could be 2 releases from now, or it could be like 10 to 11. But I don't think I need to provide like granular information like, oh, this task has been in this progress state for this amount of time. And
no. I think considering that this is a volunteer project.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I think it would be wise to be a little sparse with that information, but
yeah.
I think that layout makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay, so actually here's a question. So we've had this PR open. Let me go to it for a bit now regarding the native screenshot capability. So there's been some issues apparently that you highlighted related to the theming. So one was the theming issues resolved, and two, you had indicated you had some issues with like the symlink stuff being like selectable.
So
but
I figured out what that was.
Okay.
Because I did some investigation a couple days ago, and I also fixed it for the Budgie menu. I don't know if it's an Arch thing specifically, but on Arch, at least on Endeavor and my Arch desktop, when one of those directories is missing, the tool still says that it's there. It just resolves to your home directory.
Wow, that's really strange because I
don't know why
I haven't had that on Fedora, and like Ebenezer at least hasn't reported having that issue as well. So on Solus.
Exactly, not on Ubuntu, not on Solus, not on Fedora, just on Arch. So I just added to the menu and to the screenshot PRI. I just added a check.
Oh yeah, okay. So you did request review again, yeah? Because I looked at the code and it seemed fine. I still need to like actually take a look at it, but
Mhm.
given it's like mostly developed, assuming no issues, I think it would be fine to add this into 10.7.
Yeah, I think so too. Since it's pretty much ready.
Yeah, so I'm going to do introduce and then let's see. No, well actually, yeah, so we had an assignee which was I would say Boss Freedom because he did the PR for it, I think. This is in progress and it will be 10.7. Okay, so this we'll go ahead and mark as to do on this, and then um hmm. All right. So Evan, what sort of milestone are you thinking about for the Bluetooth applet? Assuming, of course, you're able to do it. If not, it's not a big deal. Um, but I would wager, like, is it something you immediately want to look into, or is it something you think should be slated for 10.8?
Um, well, I'd like to look into it immediately. In fact, I sort of already have been working on it, but it certainly will not be for 10.7, I think. I think it should definitely be farther
Okay.
future
All right. Well,
targeted.
we could also just keep the milestone empty. It's not a big deal. It doesn't have to have anything set there. So
Plus, I feel like we've already got enough packed into 10.7. We don't want to really overload it either.
yeah. All right. So right, power dialog, shared power controls. Yes. So that was I think I added this card in here when we were discussing the Miro board stuff because we have like the user indicator stuff, we had like the power strip, we have uh we have it in the menu, and we've sort of gotten some requests for it to be accessible or invocable through Budgie run dialog, like being able to open that and do like restart or something and or whatever and show the power controls. So I guess that might be more of just I don't know if it needs to be something that needs to be filed as an issue yet, but it could at least be put on this board here. So my line of thinking is, do we want like a shared GDK component that is sort of embedded in these other widgets, or do we want sort of a separate dialogue that, like, for example, GNOME Shell has that appears when you click to shut down? Because I think it prompts you like, are you sure you want to like shut down and that sort of thing. Like a more graphical list or something. I know I'm not describing this all that well, but
I think having a shared widget would be much more tricky because of the various different use cases I would be trying to shove this into.
yeah. Yeah, because I'm just also wondering, like, for example, in Budgie menu, if I was to click the power button, would we want that to show that embedded list that we have now, or would we want to invoke like a dialogue in the center of your screen that you could just press escape and close if you wanted, that has like the options there, and then that could also be used, for example, in Raven or uh, for the user indicator. So when you click on the user indicator, it would invoke it as well for those that still want to have that instead of having that menu. Because the user indicator menu isn't that useful.
I've truthfully never really been a fan of the center screen power dialog, so I'm a little biased there.
Okay. Well, this doesn't have to be here. I could go ahead and control X this in the Miro board and move this back over to ideas for Budgie 10. That's not a big deal. Yeah, let's see. This is, I think, a big item here, which is this better accessibility that I think is more like what we call epics, where we within each epic we have a user story or like a development item if we don't want to use marketing speak. Um, where, for example, in this epic for better accessibility in Budgie 10, we could have things like cleaned up focus on Raven, cleaned up focus on Budgie menu, which, you know, Evan Yeager and Sarah Bit, you both have done. And then stuff like cleaning up keyboard shortcuts and making sure that they're more customizable or something. There's keyboard tab borders for tapping through things as well. Uh, Also sort of meta issues like, you know, win key +1 or something for your icon task list, which actually, do we even have an issue for that? I remember maybe somebody creating an issue for it.
I think there might have been an issue on the old repo. I don't know about the new one.
All right.
Wait, are you talking about 34?
See, is it 34 /34? Add hotkeys. Yes. Add hotkeys for applications and icon task list. Yeah. Yeah, so Foss Freedom had the idea of like having one icon task list that you designate as primary. There would only be one primary, and then that's the one that would get those key binds.
Mm-hmm.
Does that seem like a sensible direction, or?
Yeah, I think so. And the primary could be just, since most configurations are likely just going to have one icon task list, the primary could just be automatic. Like it's just whatever icon task list you have in your panels, unless an additional one gets added.
Yeah. Okay.
That would make sense.
Yeah, so I mean, like this would be part of that sort of user story. Let's see what we could do in the. If I remove this, I could just type in. I could type to add a draft issue, so I could do improved accessibility. And what that does is it creates sort of this empty item, and we could actually add descriptions here. And I believe we could actually, yeah, we could reference multiple items to prove accessibility. So if we take a look at this Miro board again, I'll go ahead and move this item. I think maybe this better accessibility card should be broken out into multiple smaller items. So maybe it's worth us doing that and creating issues for them. And maybe discussing them individually. So let's go ahead and maybe discuss keyboard tab order. If I could spell order correctly. And keyboard shortcuts. Let's see, clean up widget focus. I wonder if there's anything we could do around improved screen reader support. So I don't know if we want to discuss these individually. You guys' thoughts? Great. Okay. All right. Or did I just like lose you guys? Or you like completely lost with?
And most of the stuff with keyboard shortcuts I haven't really thought about before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think it would take a lot of experimentation and figuring out where the shortcomings are. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure most of Budgie can be navigated with just the keyboard. Like it's very mouse oriented. So it would take a lot of work in a lot of different areas to figure out where the issues are.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could also just have like sort of meta tasks for identifying problematic areas related to accessibility in certain segments of the UI.
Mm-hmm.
So what we could do is maybe have see. So we have this improved accessibility. So what I'll do is in this we can. Do you want me to share? Go ahead and share it. My screen. I don't know how well that's gonna work given I'm already screen sharing it in OBS, but try this. Is it working? Okay. Hopefully things aren't gonna crack bed. Also, as a warning, if I completely drop out randomly, it's because I have a co-link 1000 watt PSU and it is not capable of actually delivering 1000 watts, and it will fall on its face and completely shut my computer down. So just a warning. Yeah, don't buy CodeLink branded PSUs. They seem to be like a European thing, so I don't know. Anyways, so if I disappear, that's why. All right, so improved accessibility. I think maybe should let me relabel this. See, identify problematic areas related to accessibility. So, okay, if we think about areas that could potentially have accessibility issues, I think maybe, let's see, is Budgie, how do we tab through? How are we intended to tab through Budgie menu? Because I'm pressing tab, it's not doing anything.
Well, tab in my case tabs through all of the different applications. So I think it starts with, hang on, where's focus actually start? Okay, I don't know where focus is starting. There seems to be a couple invisible elements. Oh no, wait. Okay, so in terms of tab order, it seems like the Budgie desktop settings, Budgie control center, and power menu are first.
Okay.
Along with the user XGG DIRS thing. And then it goes to search, and then something else that I can't see, and then it goes through the applications.
Interesting, because for me, it seems to focus initially on Budgie menu, but then if I press tab, it doesn't do anything. I can't actually change focus whatsoever.
Oh, that's weird.
And it's different again for me. What?
Okay.
For me, the focus
seems...
starts on the search, and then tab goes to, I have headers enabled, so I'm guessing it goes to the first header, and then it goes through every app.
Yeah, mine does. Okay, yeah, mine does start on search, and then if I tab, then it goes to something, then to applications, and then to the user, and then to the different extra buttons, and then back to search. So I just got the start wrong. So okay. We're in the same boat, Evan. Josh, I don't know what's up with your setup.
Yeah, I mean, like you could see, I'm pressing tab, like you could hear it.
Yeah,
it's not doing anything. Oh, look, it's actually changing now. Because I was spamming tab, so it's not highlighting anything. For me, is a thing. So I don't actually know what's in focus.
Are you using the built-in theme?
I believe so. Let me double check.
Okay, then I must just not have tab specific or focus specific highlighting on the built-in theme.
Let's see if I toggle off built-in theme and then do it. Now it works. Okay.
Yeah.
This is something I need to fix with the revamp of the internal theme.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if we think about it in the context, like, does it make sense that it has to tab? Well, I don't know how we would want to handle being able to select these like individual menu items here. For example, at the bottom of a Budgie menu, would those be independent keybinds? Would those be just solely tab focus? Like how would we want to handle that?
I mean, I'm still in favor of having a keybind to open the power menu and the Budgie menu, but I mean, given that I think the tab order currently, the only thing it's missing is the ability to tab into the categories.
So let's see. All right. Identify. So I'm going to have a section called identified issues. And we'll go ahead and have one for a section called Budgie menu. And we'll have one that's inability to focus on categories when tabbing. 2, lack of keyboard shortcuts for invoking, I would say, a user menu, Budgie desktop settings, Budgie control center, and power menu. I don't know if we necessarily need items for these two, but I think user menu and power menu might be useful at the very least.
Yeah.
Of course, then we have Raven, which is always a monster. This is probably going to have stuff related to notifications, and these keyboard, the sliders are going to be quite an issue as well. But because like if I tab through, like I can't actually tab through, like because it doesn't seem like it's actually something that's capturing focus at all, whether that's intentional or not. Because like the Budgie popovers capture input, but Raven does not. So you can't actually tab through it. So I would say that is maybe a problem.
I can tap through Raven.
Okay. Maybe this just comes back to here. Let me open up.
It's not very obvious with whatever theme I'm using, and I'm not using built-in either. So
Okay. Let me turn off built-in. Open up this. And it's still like not actually. Oh, there we go. There. Oh, not sure what happened there. Did it change something on my end? No. Okay. Okay, so it's just a focus issue with the internal theme. It's not highlighting these items, but it seems to have focused for me by default. In my experience, it focused on these internal in the microphone selection first. It didn't focus on like calendar, which I can't imagine. I mean, if anything, this calendar should never be focusable, because otherwise you might focus on the label and then every single element in this calendar widget itself, which would be awful. So, I think Sherbet is having issues. Oh, it was muting my mic because it changed it or something. Let's see if that fixed it.
Oh, that was strange. It coincided perfectly with the bing. So now what just happened?
Okay, so the tab order in Raven needs to be changed, because if you open the microphone view and you tab through it, it changes your microphone, which breaks Google Meet. So I had to leave, close Firefox, and rejoin to fix my audio.
I noticed that as well. I have to actually double check. I have to double check OBS because to make sure it's actually still using the right microphone.
It's so weird. It didn't do that for me.
It might be using the default. Let's see. I'm going to choose. This might break my stream, but we'll find out. I'm going to choose Yeti stereo microphone analog. And see if I change that. Oh, it doesn't seem to have done anything different. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Raven, big issues. So I can, let's see, might default to microphone selection, tabbing through changes the microphones, and can break applications like Google Meet. Yeah. Okay. So that's definitely an issue. I don't think, and maybe this might actually just be an issue with the GDK list boxes themselves, about how they handle tabbing. But at least in my opinion, if this is something that can be changed, tabbing through microphones should not change the actual item. It should just focus on something, and you have to like press enter or whatever to actually have it be clicked.
Yeah, agreed. And that's something that I can handle with porting all the widgets over to the new system.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it is because it's a list box. I didn't realize that.
Fix GTK list box, changing items on tab should use the enter key. Let's see, 3, calendar should not be focusable by keyboard. My logic there is otherwise you might end up in a situation where there's like 60 items there if you enable the weak numbers and stuff that I might want to try to tab through. So
with the auto device display, I wonder if that should, instead of being a list box, being like a radio button thinger. I don't know if that needs to go in the issue or not.
Yeah, that might be a better idea than the list box.
Because list box will always select on, well, whatever selected.
Yeah. See, and then the question is, because I haven't really bothered to do this, if I have Raven open and I do Control N, no, I think if Raven is open and you do Control N, it should just switch to Windows N or Super N. It should just switch the notifications, the same with WinKey A for applets. So like pressing a win A/win N while Raven is open should switch their views. There might also be better keybinds that we could do for that as well while you have Raven open. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of this is centered around like keyboard accessibility, but I don't think any of us really have any any experience with screen reader stuff. So,
no.
Unfortunately, we might have to get somebody else that actually has a lot of experience with that to come in and provide us some insight there.
Yeah.
So that's Budgie menu. Of course, then we get into all the applets and yada yada. We already have one, which is the user indicator. So I'm going to add user indicator, not user indicator, icon task list, brain gober. And I'm going to reference the Budgie desktop. Is this? Oh, it's not actually. Let's see, what was it? Ad hoc key. So it's issue 34. Can I preview what this looks like? It doesn't. Okay. Budgie desktop. I'm not sure what the format they want is here. That doesn't do it either. Reference an issue, pull request for discussion. Okay, I'll just link it then. Oh, it would be nice if it added the information for it. Let's see. So these are at least some of the items. So we have Budgie menu, icon, task list, and Raven. What else? Do we need anything for like the Budgie panel system tray stuff? Do we need anything for invoking certain menu items? I mean, I guess this really comes down to having a pluggable interface where you can define keyboard shortcuts for specific applets.
Yeah, that would probably be wise instead of hard coding all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else that comes to your guys' mind that is missing for at least these big three?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head. Those are the main ones.
Okay, we'll do this. Okay. Well, at the very least, that is... Yeah, so that's just a normal item here. Okay. So cleanup widget focus is sort of something that will happen as we're implementing the keyboard shortcut stuff as well. Or in the case of the pluggable Raven API, let's see, was that added to? Yes, that's item number 1 here. It's slated for 10.7. Good. Let's see what else. We have our run dialog. Is that added here? So we have sort entries and run dialog. We could also actually reference the pull request itself. So we could do a Budgie dialog, and then it'll be, where is it?
Did I make a pull request for that yet?
Thought you did for run dialog. Yeah, run dialog, refactor, and improvements. 192.
I was actually thinking about that the other day. Like, did I ever do that? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's just
that you did, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So this is going to be marked in progress, and that will land in 10.7 because it's already been implemented. So it just needs to be reviewed. Let's see, what is this extra check? I assume that's what you did for the arch Yoki Bob thing. The weird archisms. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's that.
So that'll be 10.7 as well. So we could go ahead and add that. That's in progress. Okay. Of course, there's other repositories here. You know, we have Budgie desktop view, we have Budgie control center, we have Budgie background stuff. So I guess another thing is, what do we want to do with Budgie background?
Well, I guess the idea is to get a good set of default backgrounds that we'd want for Budgie 10.7, since that's going to be, I think that's a pretty decent target to hit because we have plenty of time.
Yeah.
I'm iffy on whether or not I want it to be a mandatory dependency. Because we do already ship a default background with Budgie Desktop. And it is going to be relatively, I mean, you know, in the scale of actual software, it's not that big, but it is going to be a few megabytes that might not necessarily need to be there if the user already has a background that they want. I think in terms of Solus terminology, I think if you were to install like a Budgie component, right, like a package group, right, then Budgie background should be in it, but I don't think it should be a hard dep of Budgie desktop, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, my plan was just get a good set of default backgrounds in and then be ready to ship it when 10.7 comes out.
Yeah, and I think you had already put in like a pre-release, put out a pre-release version as well. Is that right?
Yeah, just to get everything set up with packaging, so it's easier to get everything rolling once the full 1.0 comes out.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it doesn't have to be a specific item. Let's see. If I go to to the buddies of Budgie and we go to Budgie backgrounds, do we have an issue filed? We don't. Do we want to have an issue filed for like a 1.0 release? Like what would that look like? I guess just a nice diverse set of backgrounds, I guess, of like different art styles or something, or
Yeah.
does it need to be an issue in here, or can it just be like an item in this Budgie 10 like projects?
I think it can just be an item. I mean,
Okay.
it's knowing when we have a good set of backgrounds is just something like I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah. And fortunately, we're not being as appreciated as it was inundated by space backgrounds now, so that's nice.
I'm a sucker for space backgrounds, but I do need some diversity.
Yeah, we need more diversity, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is a picture of a galaxy. There's literally thousands of pictures of galaxies.
I want Pluto in here. That is one thing. I need to find a really good picture that New Horizons took, but I do want Pluto in here. But
yeah,
I'm going through, and Wikimedia Commons actually has a lot of Creative Commons 0 images. You just have to stick through them because there's not really a good search option.
right.
But I've found some really good ones so far.
Yeah. And I think like what kind of images I'm more of a sucker for, given that the backgrounds that have been in Solus historically have been like a little bit more artsy or like maybe abstract or like a play with materials and architecture and that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
that's probably the stuff that I'm gonna put in, and then maybe when people see the background, they're gonna be like, "That's a Budgie background, that's a Solus background."
no.
What could it possibly mean? Somebody having a background that, I've thought about like changing my background to a quote unquote Solus one. Be like, is Josh back on Solus? Whoa! Did he stop using Fedora? What does this mean for Fudgy?
I hate that name so much.
I hate it too. Yeah, I regret putting it in the Reddit post because now everyone thinks it's going to be called Fudgy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone came up with that on their own anyway. I don't think there's anything you could do to stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and have a draft issue here. So Budgie backgrounds 1.0 release, and I know I'm not screen sharing, but it's kind of a shame that there's no collaborative editing within.
Oh, real quick, since it was asked in chat, I just lost it. Should we just mention on stream that people can give suggestions to pictures or start discussions?
Yes.
If there's something they want to see.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and run through that at the moment. So we do actually just have like a background submission process. So we have like a lot of requirements. And a lot of them are pretty straightforward, like no alcohol or tobacco, no nude images, right? This isn't your OnlyFans. Please keep it on there. It needs to be like 4K or higher because we live in 2022 and and people typically have I would like to think people have high resolution monitors, but at least my experience with work is always like everybody has like 1440p, I don't know, MacBook sort of size resolutions and that kind of crap.
I think 1080p is still by far the most common, but
yeah,
considering how many people do have high resolution monitors, I'd really rather not force someone with a 4K monitor to use a 2K image because that's going to look awful.
I'd rather have a slightly larger package for Budgie backgrounds that has 4K imagery that gets downscaled to 1080p for people. Than to upscale, because upscaling just looks objectively worse unless you're doing some like AI magicry. So clearly what we need is we need to really dive into these keywords for like machine learning, AI, neural networks.
We need to get DLSS into the desktop.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Just as an addendum to the requirements for Budgie backgrounds, ultimately it'll come down to personal taste. Like it needs to pass review by, I think, 2 people. Well, it doesn't need to, but like ideally 2 of us will approve it.
Yeah.
And that means that it has to intersect with both my taste and backgrounds and Josh's taste and backgrounds.
And anybody else that reviews it, like Evan Digger,
Exactly.
if he decides to review it, and
Fox Freedom could review it. So it's just meeting the requirements isn't a guarantee that it'll make it in.
Right.
But if it's really good, then absolutely probably will. If you want to see the kind of stuff that we already have, you can just look in the backgrounds folder.
Okay, you did actually delete the test images. That's a shame.
I did, yeah. Which, I mean, gone but not forgotten.
Right.
But there's a couple from NASA. There's a couple from there's one of Boston, which is a really nice image, and I'm glad I could get that in. And one of Lake Sherburne. In terms of where you should look for backgrounds, it has to be Creative Commons 0 or public domain.
Yes.
Which means anything from the US government, that's public domain. And Wikimedia has a page that you can go to that is just a directory of like hundreds of thousands of Creative Commons 0 images that you can sift through on your own time and find any that look good.
And there's also like CC0 like search engines as well, but they're pretty bad. And unfortunately, stuff like Pexels and Unsplash, ever since their licensing changes, they've practically removed the filter. Like you can't filter for CC0 images, which is really frustrating. So
it really is, yeah.
It makes finding high quality images like basically impossible. And we have to be a little bit more pedantic with the licensing of these. And for example, I had to with Solus, because with that, I just list multiple licenses. They're generally compatible, so it doesn't matter. And like I would document it all in the README anyways, like where things came from. Whereas like with Budgie backgrounds, we have to be more pedantic because this is going to be in a wide range of operating systems, one would hope. For example, Fedora, which is super cranky about licensing, like my God. And then Arch, which, they YOLO everything anyways, but and then hopefully Solus and Ubuntu and Debian and that sort of thing. So and that's also why, like, even if something is like LGBT related or anything of that sort, or promotes, I guess, really any sort of viewpoint, that also like can't be in as well. So yeah. But yeah, so basically the process is you could do 2 things. We have a discussion, because we get it, like not everybody has the technical capability or qualifications to really create actual pull requests. So what you could do is have a background suggestion and sort of detail some of the information, which is sort of this info here. Well, I don't think we have a discussions template. I don't think we can have one, but see, if we open up a pull request, does it have, I can't even do that. Okay. Anyway, you could open up a discussion and we could like talk things over in that. And then if everything's good, we create a pull request, or you could create a pull request directly if you have the sort of, if you know how to do it, or you're willing to spend the time to learn. So. All that aside, so we have this Budgie Backgrounds 1.0 release, so we should have a diverse, if this my DQ would work, diverse set of backgrounds for 1.0. And I think when we do get that 1.0 release, I think we should just all vote on what is quote unquote the best one. I know that's very subjective, but to have as like the one we actually add to the Budgie desktop repository itself as the new default. What do you guys think about that?
The default doesn't show up in the background selector, does it? If it does, then we'd have a duplicate.
I didn't even
don't-
know Budgie just got shipped the default.
Yeah, otherwise it's just a black screen. So it gets saved to, I think, user share. I think it might be user share backgrounds budgie / whatever default or something. I'm Kabor says, "Hey dude, I'm a big fan of your work. It's not just my work, but thanks." In fact, I've actually
Hey, we help too.
I've done very little coding. I'll have you know. In fact, I'll switch. The two people you see here. They're the ones that have been doing the majority of the work lately. Not this guy. These two. So thank
So-
them.
As it turns out, it doesn't show up. I guess maybe Budgie doesn't include an entry in XML for it. So Budgie Control Center just doesn't see it, which actually works out perfectly.
Am I running SerpentOS? No, I'm running Fedora. SerpentOS is not yet ready. Maybe one of these days. We'll see. I don't know. It's a bit of a hot topic issue. So I'm not gonna discuss that. Yeah, so we should then vote on the quote unquote best, and I put that in quotes, image to ship in Budgie desktop. Desktop as the default. Somebody's asking, is it Fedora 37? Well, Fedora 37 isn't out yet. So on this work ThinkPad, which, oh my god, are these amazing. This ThinkPad here, it's Fedora 36. On my personal laptop, which has a bunch of crap on it, so I'm not going to get out, it's Rawhide, which is technically Fedora 38. And then on my desktop, it's Fedora 36 as well, because that's current stable. So, yeah, let's see. So we should ships as the default. Okay. So this is going to be a to-do item and no milestone because it happens when it happens. You know, whether it's 10.7 or 10.8, I don't think we have to necessarily rush it. So just whenever we're happy with it. So yeah, this is all 10 items. Can I sort by? Yes, okay. Can sort by milestone, which is great. Okay, so that at least is backgrounds, which aren't added here. Applet and ID handling. Oh, I completely forget if there's even been, like, Sarah, but I remember you working on this, but I completely forget
into it.
I completely forget if we've actually done anything around it yet.
No, we haven't. It would take some effort. Although I am planning on I'm basically just gonna do that with New Raven.
Sure.
With the Raven applet thing. Like I'm going to have better applet ID handling at the start with Raven. So
Yeah.
then I can use that work to kind of backport it to the panel system.
Right. Yeah, because of course the problem is making sure existing installs work while eliminating the problematic areas that we have with it, which is sort of these instances where you could have multiple. It's not like one is you could have multiple instances of something like system tray and it borks, or like if you have a defaults change, it could bork. Or what are the
My
other
favorite
options?
is if you try to change the name of an applet, then it borks.
Yeah,
because
that too.
Based on the name. So you change the name of an applet, it's gone from your panel.
Yep, there's that, and also there was the issue where if you have something in the default, isn't the default panel INI of an applet that then gets uninstalled, it could sometimes bork as well.
Yeah, which I think I did fix.
Okay.
I think I fixed that. Yeah, no, I did because I added the code that resorts everything to make sure it's in the right position and shuffles it back if there's something missing.
Yeah. Do we have an issue filed on Budgie Desktop for it? For all the like applet handling stuff?
Do we?
That's what
I
I'm
don't
asking.
think we do.
Let's see, applet. It doesn't look like it. There might be an issue related to like, I mean, there's always one for like merging third-party widgets, but
I don't know. I don't think I ever filed an issue for it.
is that something you would like to do? Or I should say, is that something you're willing to do? Because whoever likes filing issues. But,
Yeah, I'm willing to do it. I'll take
okay.
care of it.
All right. All right. So while you do that, we could look at these other things. So let's, all right, libnm or dbus APIs for networking applet. So what did you end up deciding on for that, Sarah? Bit? Not to derail you.
Oh yeah, I was. What was the first half of that?
Like, did you choose to for the networking applet? Are we using dbus APIs for network manager bits, or are we using like libnm?
Frustratingly, we have to use a dbus API at one
Okay.
point, but most of it's libnm. I think there's only one call that's dbus, and that's you can't enable Wi-Fi through libnm. It makes you do it through dbus,
Okay.
but everything else is libnm, and
Right.
it's been pretty okay to work with.
Okay.
I have a pretty good system set up at the moment. The main issue is prototyping how to display things and connecting to networks.
So are you doing this in a way where the daemon is what contains that networking logic, and we just have a dbus API that sort of abstracts out libnm and the network manager dbus, or are we doing this within the applet itself?
We're doing it within the applet itself, which
Okay.
we could do it within the daemon, and I think that's definitely something that we should do for Budgie 11, but that's not something I consider. Well, actually, no, I did consider it, I think, and I think the consensus was that we probably didn't need a separate network manager in the daemon. Or no, I said like something like SRC networking, which now in hindsight doesn't make a lot of sense. We could put that in the daemon, but it would essentially just be abstracting libnm to another interface, which would be pretty similar to libnm anyway.
Yeah.
For Budgie 11, I think that should be a goal, but for 10, I think that just putting it in the applet is probably okay.
Okay. So if we take a look at this, this is not added into this view, so let's go ahead and add the network applet. Network applet. See, new network manager plus applet. I'm not going to add a milestone yet. I will mark as in progress though and assign Cerebit there. Let's see. Okay. Let's take a look at the issue tracker again. So there was one for improving the legacy applet. Okay, nobody's assigned to this. So NHV or Juliet was working on it. However, they're currently not available. So it might require somebody else to actually go ahead and invest the time to do this. I'm Kapoor says desktop icons, pros or against? Well, seeing as I implemented Budgie desktop view, that should, well, okay, I personally don't use them all that heavily. However, they are quite used heavily by people, and I think it's completely asinine to not have a solution for desktop icons by default. So
yeah, I don't like them personally, but I think not including a way to use them is, like you said, asinine. That's the word I would have used.
Yeah. That's why I asked. I saw none. On my system. Well, I mean, no, I have technically Joshua and Trash here. I did have, to be fair, I did have CurseForge on there, but I moved it out. Yeah, I don't use it too heavily either. So, anyways, getting back on track, we have this improved the legacy task list because it was decided not to incorporate that into the icon task list because my god, is that thing complex enough. So I think this is probably going to be a 10-8 item. Oh, actually, it was already added. Okay. Yeah, 10-8 item instead of 10-7. So let me double check. I did modify it. Yeah, I did move it. Okay. Brain. Right. So that's sorted. We take a look. So for the libnm, that's been decided. I'll just go ahead and like move this over here or something. Cerebit is handling this, so I'll move that over. EFL and Qt theme handling. Right. I don't know in the slightest how we would do the Qt theme modification, like the selection for that.
Yeah, I looked into it. I asked around, and it's not going to be fun. I'll tell you that. There's really not a good interface, like a good single interface to do it like there is with GTK.
Right.
We could do it, but it'll take some figuring out, and I'd probably have to ask some KDE developers to see how they handle it.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing, right? It's like they have a solution for it, but also their application is Qt based. So maybe there's like a Qt API that allows you to make that modification.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, like are they saving it in a config that we could just write a parser for and do that, so
Do they have their own theme engine, which would be horrifying because we would have to implement that ourselves. But there are different theming engines. I know that there are a couple, but
yeah,
whichever one KDE uses would probably be the smart one
right.
to pick up.
Let's see. Oh yeah, here's a question for Evan Yeager, since I haven't actually looked into the PR yet. Sorry. For the new Budgie run dialog, is it like something that we create by default and persist and just have running in the background, and then when it's invoked we just show it? Or
No, I didn't change that part of it. I didn't even realize that part was on the table.
okay, because like the problem with it is like whenever we destroy it, well, like whenever you fire it up, it creates like the window, it ties into app index, and you have to rebuild the entire list and all that, which might be really fast, but then the moment you launch something and the run dialog closes or gets destroyed, the next time you invoke it, you have to recreate that over, like it's just sort of this unnecessary recreation over and over and over again. So that's why I was like wondering if we should just have it live in the background and don't have it show up in, so we have like skip task list and just hide it in general. And the keyboard shortcut would just invoke showing it.
That would probably be doable. It would take a little bit more thought, but that might be better because I think the main slowdown with showing the run dialog is because it is an actual application that gets started every time.
Exactly.
Which I never knew about till I started looking into it.
Yep. Yeah, it's not ideal. So maybe that's something I'll still like review your PR as is, but maybe it's something that we can. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your current PR, but
yeah,
like work on going forward. Okay, well, so for this card, we technically already have this listed, but there we'll have another. I'll go ahead and add just a task that isn't associated with the repository, but I can reference to this the run dialog one, the run dialog PR, which is ensure run dialog does not get destroyed when not in use, or something like that. And then I could modify this.
So the idea would be it'd still be an application that's just always running, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Actually, do you mind filling out the details for this? Because you already have information about how the new run dialog works, so it might be useful to have that in this draft item here, if you're okay with.
Sure.
Okay. While you're working that, I'll go ahead and move that over. And while you two are working on those, I'm going to have an item called investigating Qt theme selection / modification. Actually, we'll just have selection handling. Because
refill my water bottle. I'll be right back.
Okay. Because what's great about this, and this is also just for like the audience, is the lessons we learn here are also going to apply, in the landscape of the EFL stuff. When we build out an EFL or whatever we decide that application will be developed in, the lessons we learn on how that application, how the theme handling for Qt, how that is handled, is still going to apply when we read write to have a new control center. The difference is, we would default to having an EFL widget. And then, when you select something, we'd have options for GTK widgets. And of course, assuming by the time Budgie 11 comes out, there's such thing as GTK themes to begin with, and not everything's been moved to libadwaita, and, you have to live with that. Which is an entire other thing. But so investigate Qt theme selection handling. So this is, we should look into how these, see how Qt theme selection works under KDE Plasma desktop, and if there is an opportunity for us to desktop settings. Because the idea is just to provide the user the capability to make their entire desktop experience as cohesive as possible. We can't promise that everything's going to be 100% cohesive, but if we can at least make applications look similar or allow you to choose, okay, I want this dark breeze theme to go along with, my Adwaita dark, and that would use the free desktop specifications there in conjunction with my dark internal theme of Budgie, and so on and so forth, and the EFL theme and yada yada. Then that's something we want to pursue. So just to get it as close as possible, because right now, we if I was to open up KeyPass, like, it looks great because I have the breeze dark stuff enabled, or I think it might actually just be their built-in Qt theming at this point. And this looks good compared to my dark applications, but this isn't necessarily the default KeyPass experience. So trying to make sure that everything looks as cohesive as possible is just a nice idea. Going to add to do. There's not going to be any assignee. It's marked as draft. I'm not sure what that's all about. Hopefully this will still show up in the Graph API. Okay, so added a task for that. EFL, I'm not going to worry too much about yet, even though it's still listed there. And then of course we have this application tracking library / API, which right now that's built into Budgie desktop for one, and two, it uses libwntk and all that. So I'd like to have it where it's a separate library, whether that's written in Rust or C, doesn't really matter. That abstracts away window manager logic. So initially it'd be Mutter, and then we would have stuff for, our Wayland-based compositor. And this would sort of provide an abstraction layer to communicate application information so it could be leveraged by multiple applets, multiple panels, and so on through a dbus in the case of Budgie 10 and or gRPC / protobuf for Budgie 11. So I'm going to just double check that we don't have a task for this on the issue tracker already, which I don't think we do. And let's see. Application tracking. We do not. So I'm going to add a meta task list here, which is abstract and revamp application tracking into separate library. Okay, so what we're going to have here is description, which will be currently Budgie desktop as abomination and another separate app indexer for tracking installed applications, currently running ones. This functionality should be merged. But in a separate library. Can be used in the daemon / Budgie desktop itself. Yeah, so have the detail of, this functionality should be separated out, but like the app indexer and abomination functionality should be merged. So anything sort of application related should be in this library. And then that gets exposed to the daemon and Budgie desktop. And that it shouldn't use WNCK because we want to be mindful of Wayland support. And while it's not a target for Budgie 11, is sort of going to be the focus for, so it's not planned for Budgie 10, but is the focus for Budgie 11. So making sure we don't actually require any X11 APIs is sort of the default. And we will have an X11 fallback session, assuming by the time that Budgie 11 is released, that we even need that to begin with. But in the scenario that we do, there might be X11 specific functionality, but that's not like the default. So this is going to be a to-do. There's no milestone for this. So as you can see, we have a lot of items here which have no milestones, and that's perfectly fine.
Do you want to take a look at the... Oh, I shouldn't have closed it, because now I can't find it.
Yeah, sure. This run dialog one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Oh, it's highlighted. See if there's
See.
anything else that needs to be added to it.
See, currently the run dialog is a separate application that gets launched when the shortcut to open it is pressed. The application startup takes a non-trivial amount of time compared to anything else, making it appear slow. Instead, it should be started with Budgie Desktop once, and then live in the background, being shown when the shortcut is pressed and hiding when the user is done with it. This means the run dialog application has to watch for changes and update its own list of items like the Budgie menu. Of course, with with run dialog, it's, at least in my opinion, simpler, right? Because it's just a linear list. We're not having to deal with categorization. So
Yeah,
that's actually
exactly.
something you mentioned here. This might also include having only delta changes from the app indexer, i.e., only getting what changed in an update instead of whole list of categories and applications. Exactly. The idea is it should be faster and more efficient to update the state in the run dialog and Budgie menu instead of rebuilding the entire list and application widgets on every update, especially if one of them is open when an update comes in. Yep. Yeah, note that is a very well described explanation. So cool. Would you be comfortable with this being marked for? Wait, why is it? It's very strange. Let me refresh this. Convert to issue. Convert to issue to edit this cell for milestone. Oh, okay. I guess I'll go ahead and convert it to an issue if you don't mind.
It would make sense.
And then is 10.8 fine? Assuming, of course, that the run dialog stuff gets added in 10.7, which it should. That this doesn't necessarily, like, you don't have to rush to do this for 10.7. If it happens to get in for 10.7, then
yeah, if it gets done first, that would be fine. But sure, that makes sense.
I just don't want to put you had mentioned putting too much in 10.7. But also I don't want to put pressure on anybody else because we are a volunteer project. So
yeah, though I personally kind of consider all the run dialogue and Budgie menu stuff related. So,
well, it's up to you. You make the decision, 10.7 or 10.8.
How about 10.7 or
Okay.
10.8 rather, and if it gets in for 10.7, then so be it.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be too much work to do.
Okay. Right.
First, we got to get the other run dialogue issue merged and tested and taken care of first, anyway.
No. And I'm also gonna read this item that you wrote regarding implement a new Bluetooth item. So proposal. Currently, we use GNOME Bluetooth pretty directly, so we are beholden to what they do upstream. This recently has become a slight pain point with the release of GNOME Bluetooth 3, which is a whole new API. It has been proposed to instead write a new implementation in Budgie using BlueZ. This allows us to have full control over the entire implementation, further decoupling Budgie from GNOME. The new implementation should have support for turning Bluetooth on off, connecting, disconnecting paired devices, going into pairing mode, sending files over Bluetooth to a device. I don't know how many people use that. If it's important to you, then go for it.
I don't know either, but I figured the function is already there.
I've never actually tested function. It. Yeah, I
have no idea even what that does.
I assume it might do something, but I've never tested, so it could be broken for years, and I just never went to it. Yeah, and display power levels of connected Bluetooth devices. Yeah.
One thing I want to note is that Blues doesn't really have a code interface. It's all via dbus.
Yep. Yeah. It's the same way with uPower as well. I think uPower also only has a dbus API. And I think it might be, I don't know if BlueZ actually or Blues exposes power information or if we need to get that from uPower.
Let me look. I have the debus structs. Let me.
I know Budgie Control Center can pick up the power level of connected devices, so it's possible that we could just look in the source tree there.
I want to say the Blues does debus API for power.
Oh yeah, there's a
Let me
battery
check.
API. Org bluesy.battery1. The percentage of battery left as an unsigned 8-bit integer. And you specify the source, which can be a profile UID or the HID. So you just have object path. Okay. Yeah, so it seems like it should be able to do that. Which is, I mean, that's even great if we don't have to leverage two
Yes,
different
powered and
debus API.
powered state. That would be nice.
Yeah. They have media APIs as well. Oh, something I really want to figure out. I don't know where the issue would lie, or if there's something, if it's maybe in like GNOME system or GNOME settings daemon, but with like the Empress API stuff. Whenever I take these Microsoft Surface headphones off, they emit a pause event, sort of like the traditional like media pause, and that's not what I want at all, because if I just like adjust them or something, suddenly like my picture-in-picture Twitch stream pauses, and I have to like switch back to the tab and then go back to like pressing play and then picture-in-picture again. It's just a royal pain. So having an option to turn off automatic like media change stuff, like media events for Bluetooth, would be really nice. It's not really in the scope of like a Bluetooth applet, but if we could figure out where that logic might lie, that would be really great. So
That's another question. Should this Bluetooth work still be in, what is it, status applet? Yeah, status applet, or should it be a whole new applet?
Oh, I see what you mean, because right now it's within like the status applet as a Bluetooth thing. Yeah. Well,
So one of the benefits of that is that if the system doesn't have the Bluetooth stack installed, the applet just doesn't show up at all, or the indicator just doesn't show up at all.
yeah.
And that was also my reasoning for, well, part of my reasoning for putting the network indicator in the status applet, because if the system doesn't have networking or nothing's connected, then the applet just doesn't show up at all.
Yeah, of course, there's also the issue of if we were to shift the user or want to shift the user to having this new Bluetooth applet, we would have to implement a panel migration, which is a bit cumbersome in current Budgie 10. So that's something that needs to be improved for Budgie 11, is these like transitions, kind of like with what I wanted to do for libdconf and having the transition files is basically we have to implement a migration that would then add the Budgie Bluetooth applet next to the system, next to the status applet.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, that functionality is no longer exposed in that applet. So if they were reliant on the Bluetooth stuff, they do an update and suddenly it's gone. So we have to have a migration that automatically adds it. Or we could just not do any of that and keep it in the status applet and just not build that applet at compile time if the APIs don't exist. So if Bluesy isn't available, and I guess just also hide it if no Bluetooth devices are connected.
Yeah, which I think is already a thing. Well, hiding it if no devices are connected might not be a great idea, because then you wouldn't be able to access the Bluetooth settings. But like if Bluesy is installed, then there'd be no reason to show it. And I think that's currently the case anyway.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. Yeah.
That sounds good, yeah.
So it really comes down to migrations are a pain in the ass.
Yeah, pretty much.
Otherwise, I would be on board because there is actually, if I go back to the, let's see, GitHub / Solus project, project / Budgie desktop. Go over to issues. There is actually a status applet. There is a status area overhaul, which has information basically like a request for decoupling the applets. Yeah, I even noted like, so this was requested in 2016. And I commented like in 2018, like, hey, we would have to make sure that we have a migration for these. So yeah. But this is something we didn't even necessarily want to tackle in 2016, back when Budgie 11 wasn't even a thing yet. So yeah, thanks. Okay, so if I take a look at the Miro board, I added a thing for here. We already have a bunch of stuff regarding Budgie menu and all the other features like full screen dash and all that. That's for like 11. Not really a focus for this. The whole point really of this Budgie 10 project that's listed is to sort of identify the remaining issues.
Oh, I think I moved his name.
Yeah, it's fine. You could just Control Z it, and it'll Control Z the move. It's my fault for not locking it. Also, it doesn't really matter. I could just lock it. There we go. It's more meant to identify what sort of issues are remaining for 10 and not have to rely on this Miro board for it, but rather have like a project people go look at, and also I could leverage on the website for, hey, here are the things that, with like 10.7 we're currently working on, or are on the agenda, so these to do, and what's coming up next. So 10.8, what's going into the future in the context of Budgie 10. So we have these items here. And then of course, we could dive into 11, which is going to be intentionally very high level items, I would imagine. And that's what I tried to do. So we can actually finally shift over to the Budgie 11 project if there isn't anything else you guys think should be in this Budgie 10 one that is like missing.
I think we're good for now. If there's anything we need to add, then we can add it later.
Okay. Okie dokie. Can I add this as a permanent? Oh, fix that later. Artem says Moriesta. Yes, Moriesta. Yes, that's what my t-shirt says. Yeah. It's basically high. Anyways. Okay, so Budgie 11. So I currently have things sort of separated out by like daemon, library, window manager. And then of course I have like this Kanban board, which has like things listed by RFC item / spec and accepted and in progress and done, because the reality is like, yeah, we need to actually create these sort of RFCs and define specifications for like the protobuf interface and all that for these certain sections for like application tracking and budget configuration, all that. So a lot of it's going to be like, hey, let's create RFCs and then have the actionable information. I also did things like we have size required for MVP, sort of the domain that they're in, and these are sorted by the domain and what their like status is, which I have custom statuses, which is like RFC item. Somebody says good move on migrating out of Miro. Yeah, I mean, it was sort of meant to be like a temporary collaboration ground anyways. So yeah, we have these what needs to exist for Budgie 11 MVP. So I guess for some of these, what items can we have at a high level? Like if we take a look at this Miro board again and compare it to like what already exists in this Budgie 11 board, what are some of the things that we need to really keep an eye on and document as like at least these are the high level plans. Like I don't think we have one for like Wayland necessarily. We just have one for like implement quarter tiling and 1x3 tiling and that sort of stuff. But is it important to document like what we would like to see in terms of our new window manager, like at a high level, like VRR support, variable refresh rate for those that aren't familiar, fractional scaling, different monitor refresh rates, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
So I would say like maybe this like Wayland focused with X11 fallback, this would be like window manager here. We already have some in the daemon for application tracking, which let me check. We don't have an item here for it, which is okay. We have one for budgie configuration. So this is a proto buff for manipulating the budgie config. That sort of ties into this, where was it? Panel configuration presets and toml instead of G settings. So I'm gonna like sort of group these up and move them over. So I'm just right now trying to like group up all these tasks so we could define some of this stuff at a high level. And if there are existing cards like this, manipulating budgie config, I could go in and we could add a description of what we'd like to see compared to like what's defined in the cards. We have some architectural stuff like this support for x86 RISC ARM stuff. I don't know if where we would want that. We could always have a new domain, like what that domain would be. If you either of you have any ideas for that, is it like a general stuff? Is it about like distribution? Is like
Platform.
platform support?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the most descriptive thing you could use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see what the process is because I forget for adding a new domain. Right.
Because that could probably also include distribution compatibility or OS compatibility if we
Yeah.
wanted to include stuff like, I know very little about the BSDs, but
Yeah.
if we wanted to include support for BSDs, then we can include it in platform support.
Yeah, because like right now, like I guess the way of describing Budgie 11 is sort of like a traditional but modern user experience and desktop environment or desktop experience for the Linux desktop. However, it doesn't necessarily like that Linux desktop part doesn't necessarily have to be there.
Yeah.
It can just be like a generalized environment, kind of like with what Plasma is. And Plasma has really succeeded there. And like, I think there are some individuals that might use GNOME Shell under BSD, but I don't think it's that popular in comparison to Plasma. Maybe if somebody's watching, they could correct me if I'm wrong, and please do. Because like Cerebit, I'm not familiar with the BSDs all that much.
I think I'd have to find it, but I think someone was trying to port Budgie 10 to one of the BSDs. I forget which one it was. Right. It might have been NetBSD or FreeBSD. But they ran into issues because they didn't want to add GNOME Bluetooth 1.0 to the repositories, which is understandable.
Which is completely fair. It's dead.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could even start enabling that in Budgie 10, but I think Broad's just having it as a goal initially to not be restricted to just Linux APIs would be a good thing in general for when we move to Budgie 11.
And that also comes down to another thing that's isn't listed here. However, I think is also worth having. And so if I just look at these custom fields that I've listed, I have for the domain, I have alternative UX, I have applet, control center, daemon, library, packaging, which actually I'm going to rename that to platform support because it is way more accurate. So thank you for that idea. I have panel and I have window manager. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. But under the guise of platform support, I also think not tying us to systemd would be extremely important as well. So
Yes, agreed.
as great as systemd is, and I really do like systemd, I also think that there should be room for alternative init systems and startup systems like Runit,
Yeah.
as an example. And I'm not sure if what the BSDs use, if they still like what init system they use, because I would be surprised. Like, do they support systemd? Because systemd to me has always been a Linuxism, or do they have like upstart sysv init? God forbid. You
God,
know.
I hope not.
Um.
Let me see. Okay, so Wikipedia actually has the answer to this.
Okay.
Find it on there. Let's see. Where is it?
OpenRC apparently is what Kapoor says. OpenRC.
Okay, well, I can't find it in the page, but apparently
init.
there are versions of systemd
OpenRC Gen 2.
that work, like forks of systemd that work on the BSDs.
Okay.
But what do they actually use by default?
Apparently there's BSD in it, according to Neil. So, and also
All right. Oh, Neil's in chat?
He is, yes.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. So there's initware is a systemd port to
That's what I was looking at. Yeah, that's a modular fork of systemd that works on the BSDs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think like I am totally fine with systemd. Like I use systemd boot on Arch, and I hacked it into Endeavor on my laptop. But I do think I think one of the focuses for Budgie 11 should just be broad support in general on the hardware and the software side.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't see a reason to exclude people for wanting to use different components in their system, whether that be hardware or software.
Yeah. Neil says, in KDE Plasma discussions, we've considered making a dependency for Plasma because systemd user sessions fix tons of problems. While true, I also like, if we think about it from the context of, I mean, I don't think systemd is going anywhere. I think it has a huge amount of longevity. However, I don't want to make it a pain in the ass, like Sarabit had mentioned, to make it available for BSD. I think systemd would be like the first class default experience, but I don't think that it should be the only only way of running our daemon and all that. And when we think about it, like Budgie itself is not that complex. We would have the daemon, we would have desktop view, we would have the panel and window manager. So basically like your normal session. So very small, like quite literally like a handful of items. So initware came up as a way for BSD to use it, and initware can run as a deputy service manager. God, that sounds like some real marketing speak, or like something Red Hat would come up with. Deputy service manager. Yes.
I do think if we want to leverage systemd, I think the best way to do it would be to, I don't even know if this is possible, but like if systemd is installed and in use, then we could add some
came up with the term.
Of course they did. I won't get into that, but yeah, we could leverage some specific systemd functionality at runtime if it's available. And I wouldn't want to put too much systemd specific behavior in there because it would quickly balloon out of control if we wanted to support all init systems with the functionality that they have. But I think if there's some stuff that we can only do under systemd, then we could have it as an optional thing and just fall back to the regular experience if it's not available.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Evan?
Um,
I suppose as a Solus user, you don't really care.
Yeah.
Not really. We're going to be honest. This is
Yeah.
all beyond my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Solus does have pretty solid defaults, so not really
Yeah.
something you have to worry about now.
I mean, what would I use if it wasn't for Solus anyway? Probably Endeavor or Fedora or Ubuntu Budgie.
Yeah.
In which case, the answer is all the same anyway, right?
Yeah.
Endeavor, the question, well, yeah, it's all systemd. You're right. I mean, unless you
So-
wanted to use Artix or something.
Yeah. But anyways, like coming back to reality in terms of platform support, yeah, multi-architecture really important. And as I've learned, actually, I mean, I don't use it myself, but by virtue of the fact that there's multi-architecture support on Fedora, at the very least, all of our components do compile under like S390X or something, fucking IBM platform, and like I'm trying to remember what else. If I was to take a look at one of my Koji builds, I don't remember all of it, but like I think Risk is listed there too. Let me check.
I know someone's
Koji.
trying to port Arch to Risk. I want to see if I can compile Budgie on that too.
But yeah, I mean, I would like actual physical hardware.
Me too, yeah. Once a good SBC comes out, then I'll probably pick one up.
Yeah, so if I go to the Fedora build system, but man, I love Koji and Koji scratch builds and all that, and I take
Budgie,
a look at
Arch is still working on a good build interface. Someone's working on BuildBot, I think.
yeah. So Arch 64, i686, PPC 64, so PowerPC, S390X, and x86 64. So no RISC V support yet, but I don't see that being insurmountable. But making sure it's available at least on ARM and RISC V is really important. As we have more ARM CPUs and stuff coming out. So
I have actually a contact who works on RISC V. So in the worst case scenario, I can talk to him if we run into any issues. The other thing with platform support that I wanted to bring up was libc. I really like Muscle. I don't use it because I don't want to have to deal with it, having to deal with the compatibility issues. But I really want to support alternate libcs because getting stuck on glibc has really kind of been a disaster for software support on Linux in general, as seen with the recent thing where they dropped DT hash, even though it's part of the it's part of the spec, and they were just like, nope, gone. Use ours instead.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very salty if I get a glibc build that doesn't have DT hash on Fedora and all my games break.
Yep. Arch,
looking at you, Neil. You're the first person I'm gonna be pinging, and it's gonna be all your fault if my games don't work. I hope you understand that. No.
Huh. Okay. Well, regardless, I'm not a fan of glibc, and I think that if we can support alternate libcs like Muscle, then we probably should.
So it was mentioned.
I think with Budgie 10, we already kind of are, because Void has come to us with issues with Budgie Screensaver, and we fixed them pretty much immediately. So,
yeah. Apparently, there is a RISC V Fedora thing. Apparently, Budgie Desktop hasn't been built yet. In theory, it could be. And then, I know that Budgie Desktop is already supported under ARM by virtue of the work that Ubuntu Budgie has done. For like the Raspberry Pi, but I would just like to make sure it's on more ARM architectures than just the Pi. So,
and additionally, Budgie does use a lot of RAM in comparison to other desktop environments, probably just because of how much GNOME stuff it leverages,
and probably Vala as well.
Probably Vala, yeah. I think with Budgie 11, considering we're rewriting it in something that's very, very light in general, both in the language we're using and in terms of the toolkit, I think it should be pretty easy to make it more like how Mate was on Solus, where it was like, if you have a less powerful system, then you'd want to use this over Budgie.
Yeah.
I think we could probably fill both of those use cases.
Yeah.
If we pay special attention to platform support and keeping things light, like KDE has.
Let's see. Brad Joker says we have it working for Odroid N2 Plus and Pinebook. Oh man, I'm jealous about the Pinebook.
Oh, the Pinebook, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So let's actually write these as so I save the options as like tasks.
Yeah.
Getting really derailed here, which is fine, I guess. But let's see. How do I do this?
Good to discuss these in a public forum, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and this wouldn't happen if we weren't just doing all this roadmap stuff in the public anyway. So, let's see. Can I add an item here but change the domain? So, let's have support for multiple. Let's see. If I do the support for, not like as in a development task, but if I write the item for multi-arch, can you write the item for like the multi like libc stuff like muzzle and GMC?
Yeah. Under platform support, right?
Yeah, I mean right now I just have this under like the window manager, but I think I could just change the domain and it should automatically adjust. But
okay.
Yeah, so and then Evan, you could, I don't know, relax it. Like, let's see.
Yay!
Up to you. I don't if there's something that you see here that you want to fill out the details for that isn't already listed, like whether it's applet parity or alternative UXs or I don't know, control center stuff, you are absolutely welcome to. You don't have to, you're not obliged. This isn't me trying to guilt trip you or anything. So
No, totally not.
no. Just do whatever. Let's see. Technically, Budgie in Fedora works on a variety of ARM systems because Fedora does. Yes. But of course, as we look into Budgie 11, we want to make sure we put a conscious effort in to making sure we support.
Yeah. So I just checked because Esrod mentioned that it's shipped by Arch Linux ARM, and I just checked, and it is. All of the Budgie components are shipped by Arch Linux ARM for ARM v7h and AArch64.
Very nice. We get support on all of the devices. Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you for all the work you put into that. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, for real. I just submitted Budgie Control Center like a week ago. I had no idea that you'd already got it working on AArch64.
That's awesome.
Yeah, let me update the support for multiple libc.
And let me change the domain here. Platform support. Okay, I can. Nice. I don't work on alarm stuff. Fair enough. Well,
fair enough. But thank you for knowing that, because
yes.
I would have never thought to check.
It's easy for it not to like be something you're mindful of when you don't have the actual physical hardware, which is exactly why like getting a Pinebook, getting like RISC-V hardware from I forget like the one vendor that provides them, which I did look into, but basically they're not shipping any new stuff because they're introducing some new RISC-V hardware down the line. But
yeah, if so, Arch. This is a tangent, but I feel like it's important. So Arch Linux officially only supports x86-64 and soon x86-64 v3. All of the alternate architecture ports are separate projects. So Arch Linux for RISC-V, that's a separate project, which is just getting started. Arch Linux ARM is a separate project. So officially, I on Arch can only support the x86-64 versions of Budgie packages.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't stop me from necessarily accommodating the use case in the package build if I need to, or in the source if I need to.
Yeah, and what's great about like what my packaging stuff under Fedora is that I'm forced to, because it compiles under all those architectures, and I could like omit certain architectures in the spec, but that's kind of like sort of a hacky way of getting around the requirement. It's better. See, yes, finally some fellow C# chats. No, no
Yeah.
C#, no
Sorry.
C# people here. No, definitely not.
I'd rather use Kotlin than Microsoft Java or Oracle Java.
Yeah. Sorry, wrong place.
It's an okay language from what I've seen, though.
Yeah.
No
I've used
shade.
it a little bit for RimWorld modding, but I don't
Hmm.
think it qualifies me as a Chad.
Let's see, Budgie 11 should put conscious, I always forget how to spell that, conscious effort into supporting a wide range of architectures, including ARM, RISC V. Let's see. We don't really. I think what GitHub Actions only supports. I mean, I think they have like Mac OS runners or something, but I don't think they have anything else for different supported architectures. So we can't really do it through that. I wonder if there is maybe some collaboration we could do with other vendors to maybe have it be part of our CI/CD pipeline. So when we make a commit, it also compiles for these different architectures. But at the very least, what I would like to do when we get around to Budgie 11, whether we subsidize the hardware through all the amazing people that support us on Open Collective, which I will go ahead and plug right now. So if you go over to Open Collective Buddies of Budgie, let me go ahead and see if Vivaldi will actually copy this in. The funding here, like none of it goes to, well, okay, technically some of it goes to me, but I'll explain that in a sec. But the money that you contribute here, if you can, of course, financially contribute, is typically used for either two things: infrastructure support or compensating people for development items. And this isn't necessarily like every development item, like like smaller tasks that might be, for example, fixing a bug or whatever. But stuff like a Budgie menu overhaul or rewrite, or system tray stuff, or let me see what I've done in terms of expenses. Like if I go back, let's see, or it might have been a reimbursement. I forget. Let's see next. Yeah, like Budgie menu re-architecture, icon taskless scaling, those sorts of things. We compensate people for. So if you like the idea of your money going to compensating people for their work, then please do. But when I think about it from the perspective of the multi-architecture support, what I'd like to do is try to use some of this balance on making sure that when we get to Budgie 11, people have Pine books available, people have some of these RISC V hardware available, Raspberry Pis maybe, and whether or not like I'm contributing or I'm paying for like my stuff or I'm helping subsidize it for others, I'm willing to do that. But if we could get some of it through Open Collective, that would be really nice as well. So if you aren't financially supporting Buddy's a Budgie and you would like to, then that would be really appreciated. So, yeah, because obviously it's kind of difficult for us to support these architectures and put a conscious effort into it if we don't have the physical hardware we could boot up and install packages onto or compile to catch issues and see, okay, are there issues with optimization in certain areas and we need to work on that, might not appear on, for example, my i9 12900K that's, watered cooled with a 420 mil AIO compared to, some potato RISC V hardware. So hardware availability for development is the most important factor. Yes, it is.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as of speaking, there aren't many RISC-V SBCs that can just be bought,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
especially laptops that can be easily obtained. But hopefully, that will change in the future.
Yeah. So you added this card here for support for multiple libc implementations.
Yeah.
So
So
you mentioned,
actually, that involves a question for chat because I don't know. Does anyone know what libcs the BSDs use? Because I feel like some of them might use glibc, but I genuinely have no idea. And Google didn't really answer my question. I'm getting a lot of birthday wishes. My phone keeps going off.
apparently they use their own, says Neil.
Oh, fun. Okay. Um,
Yay.
do they? Would you happen to know if they implement like if they target about the same coverage of oh, great.
And so
Oh boy.
Neil also says each BSD has their own slightly incompatible versions. Okay. Well, if we think about it, if we like were only to support FreeBSD, not like Ghost BSD or whatever PC BSD has rebranded themselves to this year, you know, if we only supported FreeBSD, is that an option? And then just only supporting theirs, or is it literally like every major FreeBSD release then suddenly has their own slightly incompatible libc?
I think we should. I guess it would depend on the coverage of symbols that each libc has. Like
Yeah.
if they cover similar ground to muscle, then it shouldn't really be a problem. If they implement the full standard, the POSIX standard, then it should be fine, which
Yeah.
muscle does. If there's symbol incompatibility, like there's API changes, then that could be a problem. I think what we should probably do is set, if we're already planning on supporting some of the BSDs, like if we wanted to support FreeBSD or NetBSD, then the libc compatibility would come with that automatically because we would have to make it work. I think what we should do is if we set a certain set of BSDs that we're going to work on for Budgie 11, we should at the very least be receptive to issues that are raised or pull requests that are made to improve compatibility with any other libcs that happen to be used or any other BSDs that happen to be used.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, they have, and some APIs have POSIX incompatible behavior.
True. And
Cool.
NetBSD can't be closed by the process that invokes it. Now that is special. But okay. All right. Well, we have
standard people.
Yeah.
Oh. Come on.
Yeah, so that's something we have to be mindful of. But you know, moving away from that subject, let's return to maybe these workshop boards. So we have a bunch of things related like applet. So we have applet feature parity, applet API. I don't know if these necessarily need to be on the board because I think the implication is that, well, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Because in my opinion, the implication by anyone that has more than 2 brain cells is that we would want to keep Budgie as extensible as it is. But maybe I'm being a bit gratuitous with what people might think in terms of our applet support. Like, is this something, if I look at the Budgie 11 project, that we need to add as like accepted items or anything of just general like feature parity?
I mean, I think we should keep general feature parity. I don't know if that.
But what I was saying is, like, do we need to have it as like a task, for example, on this project board?
I think it's too nebulous.
Okay.
Be added as a specific task like that. I don't know if there's a step above Epic, but that would be like the step above Epic because it encompasses basically the entirety.
Like Homer's Odyssey sort of level of Epic.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a lot. I think it would be better to focus on specific feature parity, like things that are really important, like the stock applets. Like we'd want all the ones that we already have or equivalents to them at least.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at like applet API, well, then we have like this proper front slash backend separation is already sort of implied by the board having library, window manager, daemon stuff, and the items within that. So I'm going to move this off to the side. And maybe we could add cards for the applets themselves, but let's see. So we have alternative UXs for menu. So, you know, one of the things I really want to do for Budgie 11, maybe MVP. I have it listed here, but is like at the very least a full screen dash. So people that would want a GNOME shell replacement can have that. And I think there's been some talks anyways about maybe like an icon grid within Budgie menu. So you don't have to
Yeah.
have like the linear list that we have currently, because then that would replace things like, is it Slingshot or whatever the Ubuntu Budgie people forked for that. So,
Yeah, one of the things that I want to do with the applets is there's a lot of use cases that Ubuntu Budgie just adds extra applets for that we could pretty easily just leverage in our own applets to
Yeah.
remove the need for to do separate maintenance, like the icon thing in the Budgie menu. Because in Budgie extras, there's just a separate applet that gives you an icon view, and I feel like users shouldn't have to replace the applet just to get that change in view.
Yeah. Evan, is there anything that you use in terms of the Budgie desktop experience that's from Ubuntu Budgie that you think would be valuable to have in like a core applet or as a core applet?
Ubuntu Budgie, not that I know of.
Okay.
I just use personally all of the stock applets plus my own trash applet.
Right.
Which I think we should look into mainlining. I'm not sure why I haven't looked into that yet. I think your trash applet is actually included in the Arch package for Budgie Extras is just so screwed. It's like 3 different sources. Let me see, because it includes not just the actual Budgie Extras repository, but it includes let me find the package build. It includes it includes their trash applet. Do they have a fork of yours?
Budgie,
they have their own trash applet for whatever reason as well, yeah.
They had their own trash applet before mine was created, but I think later on they forked my Vala version before I rewrote it to C and introduced translations and other stuff. So I don't know what their current applet consists of.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me install Budgie Extras again and see what they've got. Never mind. Oh, there we go. Okay. So in terms of other applets,
yeah. So if I create a card here for, well, let's think. So, well, I guess if we go back to projects for Budgie 10, is that's right. Is mainlining your trash applet something you'd like to do in Budgie 10?
It doesn't matter to me. The main thing to remember is that it's in C and not Vala, so that might make Meson interesting.
Well, Carbon Tray is already in C, and that wasn't actually too difficult to set up. I think the project's already set up as a C project. We just kind of stapled Vala onto it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. One thing that would be great is if we did do that, then we could have translations for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would definitely want to do the applet ID thing first, though, because if we have multiple trash applets, that could cause issues with configuration.
Oh, yeah, especially if the namespace changes. Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah. So I'd want to do that first. So panel, so I guess Raven first, and then that, and then we can look into mainlining applets once I get that solved.
Yeah, and we actually have I think we have third. Let's see. Yeah, I will, Neil. Thank you for filing that. Budgie desktop, and it's, I think, third. Evaluate potential third-party widgets to merge into mainline. I think this task already. Oh, I actually put track applet. Oops, that should be trash applet. Yeah, you guys must really like trash, question mark. Yes.
It's just a really trashy thing, you know?
No. Yeah. Let's see. Well, I mean, this doesn't necessarily have to be a specific milestone, especially given we don't know when like the applet stuff is going to be updated. Also, because this is sort of a nebulous thing as well regarding evaluating all these different widgets. You know, having the entire evaluation of everything in one go is, I think, unnecessary. But it can at least be added. So I went ahead and at least added it to the board, but I'm not going to set like a milestone for it. I am going to mark as in progress for 10 though. But if I go back over to 11, so we have applet stuff, we have alternative UX. Let's see, is there anything that comes to mind that we're not going to do in Budgie 10 related to the applets? I guess maybe separating out system area stuff, I mean. For 11, I think that would probably be like the big, or not necessarily a big one, but at least one we could put down in this Budgie 11.
Wait, what do you mean? Do you mean like splitting out the tracking for the status notifier stuff into a separate thing?
The status, and I mean like, so we have the status area which has like the Bluetooth functionality
Yeah.
and all of that.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yeah.
Like,
All these names are...
like, do we want to split them up? For one, and two, is that like a Budgie 11? I mean, obviously, it's if it was going to happen, it would be a Budgie 11 item.
I think it might be wise to split it up into maybe a networking applet that includes Bluetooth and regular networking, and a sound applet. I don't really see why sound applet has to be part of the status applet, to be honest. Sound is pretty much on all systems.
Yeah. There's also within this or is this a separate thing? Oh no, Nightlight is separate. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I use Nightlight quite regularly.
Oh yeah, that is... I don't know if you saw my... I haven't put this in an issue yet, but did you read my list of stock Raven widgets that I'd like to look into adding?
Was that in like the development channel?
Yeah, it was in the... I think it was either in general or development. I think it might have been in general, actually.
Okay.
But that was... Nightlight was actually one of them, because I wanted to add a brightness...
Yeah, the brightness widget, yeah.
Yeah, brightness plus nightlight, because I figured it'd be a good thing to include there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, yeah, I think just evaluating the current state of widgets and maybe splitting some out might be a good idea. The only one that would really matter for that would be the status applet, but...
Let's see, evaluate splitting status applet to multiple applets, and then I'm gonna add not window manager but applet itself. Required for MVP, I would say partially, not necessarily, but it might be wise to split some of them out. No assignees. We'll have RFC item size is probably going to be quite small in comparison to everything else. Okay, there's that. And we'll spend a few more minutes on it, then we actually need to wrap up because it's almost been 2.5 hours. And then we have one for alternative UXs for menu. So I could fill out the details for that. I don't know, Evan, if you would like to create a card for like nice to have features for Control Center, or maybe we'd have like two cards, one for like nice to have and one for required, and we could spend a little bit of time actually thinking about what we absolutely need, and like we could look at the existing Control Center to see.
Could do, yeah. I also wrote a little bit of text in the Poor Budgie 10 notification server.
Well, let's see. Let's see. Create a package. Package. Ooh, nice footnote stuff. Ooh, fancy. Look at you.
Thank you. I totally didn't look that up when I was doing it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Package in this context could either be a separate repository under Buddy's Budgie or a separate code package or namespace within the Budgie daemon. Yes. It's possible that shared structs would live in its own namespace within Budgie, similar to Enlightenment. Yeah, it's yet to be determined. Nice. That's create a package for the Budgie notification server that listens on the dbus free desktop notification namespace to show notifications. Have a few parts. So yeah, the dbus server on org free desktop notification that processes incoming notifications. So reads dbus information for notifications, shows pop up, rebroadcast. gRPC broadcast incoming, and then library portion to provide structs and definitions. Yes, because then those structs and definitions could also, in theory, be reused for Raven itself. So at least that's the idea. So similar to what I have at work, which is we use Turbo Repo, and we have like shared TypeScript definitions for some stuff. So
Yeah, I wasn't sure how we were going to handle passing structs around like that, and if they would all live together and have functions defined to parse information into them, or if they would just be in each individual module.
yeah, the gRPC. Yeah, I mean gRPC isn't like necessarily the thing we're going to have to use, but we definitely want to use protobuf because it provides us the necessary degree of structure and granularity that we would want in comparison to just dbus by itself. So yeah, see you, Neil. Okay, so let's do you want me to write the control center task for required stuff, or are you on that?
I haven't started it, so if you want to, then
Sure.
feel free.
Required sections of control center. This will be this. We'll put it as RFC item. Required, yes. Size is going to be epic. Yeah, so obviously, like if we take a look, network management is probably one. Network management.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bluetooth management.
Input, keyboard and mouse, potentially touchpad. Yeah, touchpad actually.
Mouse / touchpad. Configuration. I'm going to put in parentheses with gestures.
Yeah, gestures.
Because I would love to do like swipe gestures and stuff for Raven, and
that is one thing I
and
do kind of miss from Mac OS back when I used it in like 2017.
Yeah. Let's see. Keyboard configuration. So this would be layout shortcuts, I would say. We would need Budgie desktop configuration.
Yeah.
Within it. I mean, that's like an entire broad category as well. That's like from applet stuff to design elements and Raven and what have you. Let's see. I guess Raven would sort of tie into notifications. So maybe notifications / notification center configuration. Let's see. You would want multitasking. Well, okay, I guess then the question is, would it be multitasking or would we have like multi-desktop management or something? Because like if we take a look at Budgie Control Center at the moment, it's like active screen edges, which is, I guess, regarding tiling,
I
which
think
I
it's
get,
tiling.
which I guess is like,
Yeah.
which I guess is multitasking. Workspaces, so it's like the number of workspaces, what monitors those are on. Like if I show it here for everybody, there's all that. So I guess would we want it to be under? I mean, multitasking is kind of a good name for it, but I don't know if we want all of that under a multitasking. I guess it depends on our configuration options, but
Yeah.
Let's see. We also have
Sound is important.
yeah, I'd like to believe that sound is important. There's this applications thing. I don't think we need this applications panel at all.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be better served as a permissions panel, which is
Yeah.
mostly what it seems like it is. But no, there are a couple things like LibreOffice.
Yeah, I guess there's default handlers, but the way of discovering what the default handlers are is like basically impossible. So you end up having to go to the default application section anyways. So
yeah. So yeah, maybe not that. I wouldn't say
yeah.
that's required, at least not initially.
We have like privacy stuff. There's like Thunderbolt here, which is like it. I've never seen what this even would expose anyways, because I don't have any Thunderbolt devices or cards. So I don't
Yeah,
really
me
think
neither.
I don't know if Thunderbolt security levels are necessarily required. I guess we would have to figure out what those are anyways. There's a file history and trash. This doesn't even really apply all that much to us anyways, because I don't think trash configuration really belongs in the desktop anyways. That would belong in your file manager. And in the case of file history, we're not keeping track of files anyways. So none of that's really applicable. So it kind of just comes down to like location services, which is basically GPS. Or I guess there's the location service API. I'm not actually even sure how much of this is applicable beyond like the Epiphany browser and GNOME Maps. So, don't know. I guess maybe we could ignore privacy section for now. Online accounts is kind of a problematic one because so much of this is like applicable to GNOME things. So, yeah.
Yeah, the big thing with that is email and calendar.
Right.
I have no idea how we want to handle that going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a required section, but we could have like a separate investigate task for like defining online account support. We have sharing, so this file sharing, remote desktop, remote login. I don't. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say whether or not the desktop needs to handle that. Maybe keep that not defined for now. We already have sound. Power settings is a good one. Integration with oh god, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Switcheroo or whatever, I think. Because isn't there a way, I think, with Switcheroo where you could define an application to launch with the GPU, but isn't there an option to always have something launch with the GPU?
I'm not sure. Let me see.
Right. Right, I forgot I was muted. All I know is when I tried to get dual GPU set up on my laptop, it was awful, and I just went back to using the Intel iGPU instead.
Which is funny because for me, with the Dell XPS that I had at my old workplace, it was so bad I actually installed the NVIDIA drivers because the integrated Intel GPU kept working. So, yeah, let's see different power modes slash power saving options. Maybe, yeah. So, Evan, are you looking at that switcheroo thing?
Yeah, I think the main thing with switcheroo is it's only for detecting if there are multiple GPUs and what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So we use that to decide what profile to set.
Right.
So it doesn't actually do anything of that on its own.
And how are we defining the what profile to set? Or do you mean
Let me
like the
check.
performance versus balance versus like power saver one?
Oh, I just mean for which GPU an application runs with.
Yeah. Because I think it would be nice, I don't know if it's under power or something else, where you could define there a list of your applications where you would want things to default to the GPU or not.
Yeah, but as currently we just use the availability. I'm trying to remember where that lives. There's too many things in Budgie named A that start with A.
Right. Well,
Budgie menu, no, it's not there.
while you take a look, that we're obviously going to need display configuration. And this is going to need to have support for VRR, fractional scaling per monitor. Let's see, resolutions, refresh. Well, I'll put VRR / refresh rates. And
Okay, so I have the answer, I think.
Okay.
As long as I remember the question. So switcheroo gets you a list of GPUs, and each GPU has a property called default that tells you if it's the default GPU. And we use that in conjunction with if an application's desktop file specifies to use the default GPU, then we use it. And if not, then we use the other one.
Okay. But does it... So I guess it's up to each application, but does that mean each application has to implement their own way of using that GPU, or is it that they define the switch,
so.
or they define the switcheroo thing, and then the switcheroo then launch the application with that GPU?
Neither, because switcheroo literally only checks for GPUs and then gives you that.
Okay.
How the system does it is it's done via the application launch context. So it would be however glib does that.
Right. So I think maybe that's not a required section for Control Center, but it's something that we can investigate in terms of how glib does it, because it would be nice to get it where you could either like say launch all the things on my dedicated GPU in this given power mode.
That would be a great idea, yeah.
Like if I'm plugged in, like say my laptop, has a DGPU, NVIDIA one, built into it. If I'm plugged in, launch everything on that. When I unplug, reset the default to the iGPU. And we could also tie that into these like third-party cards as well that you connect up with these external dedicated GPUs and weird stuff like that. But
yeah, for sure, because that just becomes another Boolean check. That's easy enough.
I'm actually also going to write a note to self, write up B11 card for investigating and improving user story around GPU defaults and switching. Okay. Yeah. All right. So displays. Is there anything I'm missing? And this is to both of you regarding display configurations. I mean, I guess layout is one that I don't have listed here. But right now I have VRR/refresh rates, fractional scaling per monitor, resolutions, and layout. I guess I could put orientation.
Yeah, we probably need orientation, primary display.
Okay, yeah, primary selection. What else?
This has like automatic screen lock, but I don't think that should be in displays. I think that should be in a different section, wouldn't you think? Wouldn't that be under like power?
Hold on. Let's see.
Oh, the screen lock. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so yeah, screen lock I think is more related to privacy, whereas blank
Privacy
screen,
would fit, yeah.
whereas like blank screening is related more to power, but also it's kind of display related as well. To me, it falls more under power, but
yeah.
let's see, power saving options, screen blinking. Let's see. All right, well, if I take a look at the Miro board, down here we have VRR, window tracking, which isn't really displays, fractional scaling, which I listed, and different monitor refresh rates, which is the idea. And one of the benefits that the Wayland aspect would give you is the ability, in theory, of course, depending on our implementation of the compositor, to support different monitor refresh rates. So, and fortunately, I know somebody that has a super high refresh rate monitor now that I could test it against. So, assuming she'll let me, which I don't see why she wouldn't.
High refresh is great. There's a reason that I was so insistent on VRR support and different monitor refresh rates when we first did the Budgie 11 feature set, because I'm like, X11 is just not doing it for me in that regard. We have to support this the box.
I've seen how like Elder Scrolls Online or even just like normal browser scrolling looks.
It's amazing.
The Weiss monitor. Oh my god, is it like?
But then if you have this is what sucks about X11 in that regard, is if you have two monitors and one of them has like a 60 hertz refresh rate, the other has a 144, it only composites at 60.
Yep.
And VRR gets disabled completely.
Yeah.
So.
And there's like in theory supposed to be ways of getting around that, where if it does the on-redirect, it won't go through the compositor, so it should just immediately blip it to the display. But I haven't heard of that actually working all that well in practice. So
yeah.
Let's see. So we have mouse. So I'm going to expand this to acceleration profiles, which I know you're absolutely adamant about, and I'm sure you are extremely happy about, Cerebit, that we have those acceleration.
Yes.
Profiles.
Oh my god. The first thing I added when we got that forked.
And natural scrolling. Natural scrolling for the weirdos that use that.
Australian scrolling.
Yeah, nice, yeah. Printers, like, I don't think this is a required section. I think this is like, I just...
I feel war flashbacks coming on from you.
I know, oh my god. I hate printers.
I think everyone hates printers. The unfortunate thing is, if it's not in the control center, then where is it?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like I couldn't even, when I set up my printer originally, which I haven't even bothered to do on this new system, I couldn't even do it through Control Center. I had to fire up the Cups web UI in order to add it because it wouldn't detect it through the normal printer configuration.
Oh, wow.
So fortunately, Cups has a web UI where I was able to do that, but uh, printers. Let's see, not it! Exclamation mark, Josh. Not. I'm not going to be the one to do that. I refuse. See, there's removable media. I don't know if we need to handle this. Like, do we care what happens when you happen to have a CD player? Like, oh, our temps have just embed the web UI into settings. Yeah. Just have a WebKit view within printers.
You
That
know, I was
just
actually kind of thinking of just having a link to it.
true.
That would
Yeah.
probably be bad, but it would work.
Yeah, just have to have cups and just click the link. Yeah.
Sir, but you're muted.
Just make settings in Electron, honestly. Like, so much
You
easier.
know,
We could finally have a reactive and scalable settings UI.
You know what's sad is if it wasn't for the fact that would be continuing Budgie like with Budgie stuff, after I left Solus, I would have almost been tempted to write a new desktop environment, Wayland only, but using like Flutter. Yeah, just because
Well, I'm glad you did then.
just because I dislike the state of toolkits and all that this much at this point. But
it really is pretty dismal.
yeah. Oh, right. Yes, color profiles. This is really important. I think this needs to actually be under display configuration. Color profiles.
Yeah, why is this? It's so okay.
Yeah, because you have to choose which monitor anyways. So
here's an interesting thing though. My printer is also in this list.
What? Hang on. Wait, your printer is under the color profiles list?
Yeah.
It's under the color. What?
Which makes sense because you can print in different color profiles theoretically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it should probably just be under printers and under displays then.
Yeah. And then region and language is pretty obvious. But this is actually weird. I don't care how much work is involved in this. This is going to be a feature where I'm allowed to use numbers in United States English and currencies as like Finland and dates as like Finland or something. Or dates where the language is the United States, but the format is like ISO 8601 or, just any fucking format I want.
Oh yeah, these are all hard coded. You can't change them, can you?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
that's so dumb.
I don't really care. I mean, I would love to use ISO 8601, but if you want to implement that, go ahead.
Because it bothers me so much that I can't do like the day, month, year, which is how it's formatted here, because my formats are set to United States English because I want that for my time and measurement and numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very frustrating. Yeah, let's see. And I know we're over. I will try to keep it short. Just like once this control center thing is done, we'll stop. But I don't want to keep you guys. Language, ability to choose language, obviously. Custom formatting, separation for currencies, time, long form dates, short dates. Okay. Accessibility, unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of really good accessibility options here. High contrast, which I think is more of appearance related than accessibility. I think you should just go into appearance, click at high contrast, and voila. Large text, I feel like that's also, like, I could see why under Budgie Control Center, which is GNOME Control Center, it's under accessibility. Because I guess appearance would imply it doesn't apply to applications when it does.
It seems like large text just applies scaling to all the text in the system, not just specific, like, predefined text categories. So it would probably be a good thing to have.
Yeah. We have zoom, screen reader, sound keys. I don't even know what that is. Beep when numlock or caps lock are turned on or off. I feel like that's like poor man's sticky keys, but okay.
It does the gnome drip sound. Yeah, he just uses the regular alert sound.
Yeah. And then we have like double click delay and click assist. I'm gonna add this as evaluate accessibility functionality. Okay. Users. Yes, this is going to be a pain, but something that will actually need to be worked on, which is user configuration. So at the very least, being able to add and remove users. And I don't really care too much about the account activity part. Auto login, I guess.
Yeah, I would include that.
Okay. User management, add, remove users, set as admin, auto login. Default applications. So this default applications thing here, it feels like, I mean, at this point, sadly, it's actually worse than Windows with the Windows 10 settings stuff. Like their quote unquote new settings applet or app. I mean, the fact that you could only do web, mail, calendar, music, video, photos. You can't like go in and be granular with like the MIME types.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might, like, would we want a simple versus advanced view where you could go in and be like, this application decided it wanted to, like, for example, that VS Code decided it wanted to be my inode directory handler. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to go and disable that through the settings.
I think we should support that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Default applications with ability to add, remove, modify with granular types, type definitions. Almost done here. And then we have date and time. So date and time is automatic date and time. The date and time itself, so if you don't have automatic date and time enabled, I don't know who doesn't have NTP stuff enabled to this point. Because, like, you not having NTP is actually a bad thing, because if you then go to a website without NTP enabled and you have an incorrect offset, you're going to get SSL warnings. So I don't know, does that need to be an option to turn off automatic date and time?
Well, I think it has to be an option because even Texas requires internet access. So what if you don't have internet for some reason? Then your time is just broken.
True.
I've also had to manually set date and time before. I think it would just be good to have as a fallback.
manual setting, automatic. I mean, this just do date, time zone. I feel like time format, I guess it's because you're able to do that by 12 and 24 hour, but that would, in my opinion, fall under region and language, maybe.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Because like time is time. Like it's, you either use 24-hour time or you don't. There isn't really. Yeah, I
You
don't.
mean you don't have your time displayed in nanoseconds from January 1st, 1970?
Oh, this is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have it since Unix epoch. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Am I even a Linux user at this point? Like, God, what a pleb. Yeah. All right, and then about information, like this is just system details.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to have.
No, I 100% agree.
So-
I was looking at the about page in our current one, and there's some stuff I'd like to add or modify, I guess.
What would you like to change to the existing one?
Well, right now OS type is just 64-bit. We could probably mention the actual CPU architecture, like x86
Yeah.
64. Build type or build ID shouldn't be under OS name. We could probably split that out.
Wait, what is it? Build ID?
Yeah, on mine it says OS name, Arch Linux build ID rolling.
Oh, mine just says
That's
OS name Fedora Linux 36 workstation edition.
Yeah, that's provided by the operating system
Yeah.
stuff. That's not actually.
Well, mine, if I look at cat OS release, I get pretty name and name as Arch Linux, and then build underscore ID equals rolling. So I think it might be doing some special handling for Arch.
Yeah, I think it might be including the build ID if it's defined.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think it's defined for Solus or like Fedora or anything of that sort.
Yeah, could be. We could maybe add like an actual section for build ID if it's included instead of just stapling it onto OS name.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is kind of weird.
Yeah,
I wonder what it looks like under something like NixOS.
Yeah, that's a good question.
If we have any NixOS users that also happen. Well, I mean, technically, you don't have to be using Budgie, but if you're using GNOME, like what it shows in their control center.
Yeah, because there should be. Well, unless they changed it in 43, because I don't think we backported those changes yet.
I will say I like how my hardware model listed here is just ASUS system product name.
Really?
Yes. Like, wow,
ASUS.
Thanks, guys. Yes, I have a product name for one of the products in my system. Thank you. That's really appreciated.
Mine's a little more specific. It lists my motherboard, not like the name of it, but the ID MS7B85.
Right.
By Microsoft Co. Ltd.
But the thing is, if I fire up like Alacrity, let me just double check. Yeah, like it doesn't show product / but it at least has a model. So it should fall back to that. Like, so it says system ASUS. And then I guess for product, if it's NA, it just says system product name instead of my model, which is Prime Z690P-D4 or -P D4. Anyways. So maybe that's something that's worth fixing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff we could fix in the current Budgie control center.
Yeah. I think something we forgot. Background setting.
Yes, that needs to be there.
People like to change their backgrounds. Who would have thought? And backgrounds. Oh, and thank you for changing that layout so it's like the Budgie one instead of like GNOME Shell. I didn't realize that it's actually like this is an actual widget with actual icons that's just super duper small.
I struggle a little bit with making the app menu icon actually look good. It's still a little crusty. It's turning 9 dots into 4, but looks
Right.
good enough. I
Yeah.
didn't even
Wait,
realize we had
that's
for it. I was like, wait, while I was working on the background stuff, I was like, wait, that looks like gnome. Let me
Yeah.
change that.
wait a minute. That's not just a still picture.
No, and I thought it would be just a still picture overlaid on top of another one.
I thought, like, if you look, the time that it shows in the panel is the current time.
Oh, it is.
Oh my god.
You can even see if you leave the view and come back, it has to create the time widget.
That's so strange.
That's like I will say props to the GNOME people, because that is like a crazy attention to detail.
It really is, yeah.
It's a lot of extra work is how I see it.
Yeah, that too.
Impressive, but very unnecessary work.
Yeah. Okay, well I think that's a good list here for the control center.
Oh, what about Budgie desktop settings? Because we want to smush those together, right?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
listed under Budgie desktop configuration. I think, like, obviously if we expand on this, it would be appearance. Well, actually, I'll just put basically everything in Budgie desktop settings. Yeah. And like things will get moved around. There'll be some stuff like if I open up Budgie desktop settings, like the Windows stuff, like layout and all of that, or for example, automatic tiling, that would be under like multitasking, I would think.
Yeah, some of it can definitely be in existing sections.
Yeah. Some of it might be under like appearance, maybe like the button layout and the position of those. Others might just be like generalized Budgie settings. So, yeah. Lots of good work today. So just to go over quickly for those that have tuned in late. So we have under our organization. So if you go to like Buddy's a Budgie and you have like this projects tab up here, you can see there's one for Budgie 11 and there's now one for Budgie 10. So at the beginning of the stream, we focused on fleshing out the Budgie 10 items, which is sort of an amalgamation of tasks and PRs, as well as like draft items, draft discussion items that we have just within this board. And the purpose of this is to help provide not only a clear idea to people looking at through GitHub, what is on the roadmap for Budgie 10 before we move on to like Budgie 11, but also it provides a good set of data that I could leverage for the Budgie site itself, in order to have a roadmap directly on the website. And then after that, we focused on Budgie 11 items. So there was quite a few items already here that I had added early on for like the daemon and library, but we added some related to platform support, as well as applet and control center bits. And these will be like fleshed out over time. And as we move closer to Budgie 11, and some of these are moved from RFC to accepted RFC with clearly defined specs, these will change over time and get more granular. But we worked on all that. So what we don't have to do is rely on this Miro board. I'm not gonna like delete it. It's still good to have for posterity, I would say. But being able to not have to link to some random website like this Miro board, but have it directly on our development center, which is GitHub, another website, is really important to me. So, but yeah, I would like to thank Mr. Sarabit and Mr. Eben Yeager for their time, of course. So thank you for taking a good chunk of your Saturday and working on this. So it's really appreciated.
Yeah.
Of course.
And yeah, hopefully this will provide people a lot of good information, or if they wonder what the hell is happening with Budgie, you just be like, take a look at this board.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And eventually we could just be like, take a look at this page on the website and you'll know. So yeah, in terms of other stuff, I don't know if we'll stream the stand-ups, maybe. Because they're only like 30 minutes. It'd be maybe nice to stream them. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah.
But now that I have all this roadmap stuff detailed, I'm gonna start streaming the Budgie site development. Maybe stream that a little bit tomorrow. So
Okay, cool.
yeah. All right. Any final words from you two?
You need to update your Twitch point redeem awards, because one of them is say something bad about any operating system other than Solus.
Oh, yeah, that definitely needs to be anything but Fedora, obviously.
Good, I guess. And then you have for GNOME, which honestly you could probably keep that.
Yeah. No, that's.
I was actually seeing if there was anything I could redeem because I'm at 24.3 thousand.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change that.
Thing about GNOME. You're close to him having to say a good thing about GNOME.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think I gotta save up for that actually.
Oh no.
Almost.
Better start thinking, Josh.
Yeah. Bastards. All right, let's see. I'm actually gonna have to open up the stream manager here. Let me open up a new window and see if somebody is streaming.
I believe Zach Bacon is streaming Solus GNOME stuff, and it might be Zelda. I don't know how well it's going.
Oh, so like while he's waiting for stuff to build, he's playing Zelda.
Yeah.
Let's see if I fire this up. Twitch.tv / is it Zach Bacon or is it the Canadian Bacon?
I believe it's that Zach Bacon.
Yeah, it's Zach Bacon.
Hashtag not sponsored, hashtag not an ad.
Let's see. Yeah, okay, so he is streaming. He just has it's a Zelda stream there.
So that's what I see on Discord. That's all I know. That's all I know.
Okay. Let's see. Enjoy the GNOME pain, says Scotty. Okay, so yeah, I think he's also doing GNOME stuff. So I am gonna see then about rating him. So we're gonna do that Zach Bacon. So yeah, if you don't know the absolute monstrosity that is GNOME Stack upgrades, and you want to see it, go check out Zach, and hopefully you'll also see like that spreadsheet in use as well. And
thanks again for that, by the way.
Yeah, well, I was honestly as surprised as probably you were about the fact I was able to get an updated version.
Yeah,
but it's nice. So yeah, obviously you'll have to get it updated for libhandy and libadwaita, but
yeah,
it should be as close to as accurate as I remember it. But yeah, go ahead, check that out, and thanks again to both of you. Can't say enough for the time out of your day, and see you all later. So bye. Let's start the raid.
bye.
Right, so rating in 6 seconds. So see you, everybody. Let's see.
And there it goes. That would be right back screen. Well,
yeah,
we have amazing timing. Let me check the build.